Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning. It's Thursday, and you have reached Venus Unplugged, your virtual heartbreak hotel. And this is your host, Llorraine Neithardt. And what we do here at Venus Unplugged is we explore in many different ways the archetype of Venus, trying to learn the language of psyche in our dreams, in our myths, in fairy tales, and in ordinary life. And what's the Venus code? She's ever present, but we don't know what we're looking at because we can be prejudiced by what we think she is. And she's so many other things. And so in trying to uncover the Venus code and the pathology of love and the relationships of art and beauty and meaning in our lives, this is what we're up to. It's quite fascinating. So what we're going to work on, we are continuing to work on the individuation story of how Snow White became whole, how she got to be the queen. Now, for anyone, whether we do it consciously or unconsciously, who chooses to become whole, you're going to have encounters that you never believed. But the part of you that wants to be whole is far greater than you could ever imagine and can overcome these obstacles. It's like, all I wanted was to be whole, and all these things begin to happen in my life. Well, then you know you're on the right track. If that's not happening, just wait. They're setting you up, and that's not a negative. That we have to be able to see our entire shadow and light. So today's episode is about the mirror. Now, speaking of mirrors, we are all in the midst. The next 2 months, really buckle up, babes, because there's going to be some dramatic and profound changes, both within and without. Do not choose fear, choose consciousness, choose meaning. That doesn't mean that you can't give fear 5 minutes of recognition and honor, but it's not the path you're going to take. So one of the books that I suggest, if you feel like wrecking your weekend, is Alice Miller, Drama of the Gifted Child. This is all about mirroring, and when children, yourselves included, do not get mirrored or have narcissistic parents that do not mirror. And narcissism is a very painful disease to have. So even though a narcissistic person we can either find funny as long as it's not related to us, or we see it in television and we laugh because everybody recognizes what it is, but it truly is enormous suffering. It is a total lack of mirroring. So when the mother or father or caretaker of the infant is looking at the infant cannot see its reflection in the mother's eyes. And that's devastating. So when that connection, or what they call participation mystique, does not happen, we spend our lives looking for, not really sure if we have any value. I liken it to, I don't know if you've ever had the experience of looking into a cracked mirror. And my response is it just makes me feel crazy. Like, oh my God, I don't even know where to look, and look at all that crackness. That's what it feels like when one looks at either a narcissistic person, and you can't be mirrored back, and suddenly you're invisible. We even have it as adults. Our inner kid will always respond and feel either angry, or they're invisible. You don't see me. Or if a beloved is narcissistically motivated, now sometimes it can be just for the moment. It doesn't mean it's their pathology. What do we say? You don't see me. You don't see the real me. Sometimes it's due to their narcissistic drive. Now, we all have some narcissism, so let's kind of chill with projections. But a severely narcissistic person it's rough to be around, man. It is just rigorous, to say the least. So we either try to serve that narcissism. Maybe if I'm a really good person, they'll see me. Or maybe if I do this, ain't going to happen. They don't see anything. They're so wounded, their eyeballs are turned back in on themselves. And the loneliness and the smallness. So what happens when you look into, or a narcissist looks at you, you actually feel their emptiness. Very often it's not even your own. They don't have the empathy, and they're deeply wounded. They're still aggravating as all get out, so we try to step aside. But so the drama of the gifted child tells us how this all begins, how this tragic story in our childhood, or when the parents take all the credit because you're their child. They steal your gold, which is very, very painful. So that's one thing. Also, next Friday, V-Day. So go to your websites and look at either V-Day or 1 Billion Rising. 1 Billion Rising. Do you know the shift that will make in consciousness? And the vote for Venus, the vote for relatedness, the vote where it's like 1 Billion Rising is to stop abuse of the feminine children, and it's a celebration. It's about dancing and movement for this greater cause. So go and read and join, even if it's a thought, a wish, a dream, a hope. And if you can't do it for yourself, do it for somebody who has absolutely no voice. Okay, so that's a vote for Venus, and we're changing. So yes, there's big, big dramatic changes across the world. The important thing is, how are we going to mirror it in our life, right? And since there is kind of a flooding of evil happening, I'm also suggesting another book that will ruin your weekend, but is worth reading, is Witiko, W-I-T-K-O, by Paul Levy. It's all about the virus of evil that is in our culture. And there's an epidemic going on. And so becoming conscious of what we're looking at, because we can feel things. But if there's no mirror, we can't see it reflected back. It's just floating around. And that's when it can catch us. If we know what we're looking at or what we're experiencing, if we can see it, if we have a name for it or a color for it or a reference for it, therefore we can contain it, which means we can hold it, which means you're not going to be overwhelmed by it. Although I have to tell you, I read this book a number of years ago, and I realized I took one breath, and I was like holding my breath for like 3 hours till I finished the book. So, and there we have it. There we have the books that will wreck your weekend but wake you up. So we're having that. So this mirror, this magic mirror. So, okay, Snow White's she's the wish of her mother and the Queen Mother, who is now dead as soon as Snow White was born. A year later, the king, who we only hear from twice, marries the wicked stepmother, who's quite haughty and quite dark. Okay, and there's pure Snow White in her innocence and her virtue and her spirit. So she has a year of unmothering completely, so we know she's got no reflection. All right, she doesn't really know where the good is, so she's pure. But she's framed by black. And then comes the second wife. And here the tale tells us about the Dark Queen. She had a marvelous mirror. Whenever she stepped before it, and gazed at herself. She said, "Mirror, mirror, here I stand. Who's the fairest in the land?" And the mirror replied, "O Queen, you are the fairest in all the land." And then she was satisfied, for she knew that the mirror told the truth. So the mirror, first and foremost, it's for reflection. It helps us it helps the observer clearly see, what they're looking at. And what we may want to change. We may notice gray hair or a little wrinkle or not quite the shape that we want or whatever we're perceiving. But also, the mirror often reveals the shadow side. You can be perfectly lovely and looking in the mirror, and some shadow aspects comes up and says you're just a fat slob and die. Then we know, wow, I just had an encounter with my shadow. So we can have the truth-telling, and truth is all relative, okay? Truth is the truth of the shadow and the truth of the light. It doesn't have an opinion. It's just when we look at it and we see the shadow aspect and we start really ripping ourselves apart, it's like, wow, that's an encounter with my shadow. Now, if I can just step back a little, observe, and see what the shadow, and that's the material, the darkness that you need to integrate. What if any of what the shadow was saying was true? So what? You still have to integrate it. You still may be able to say, yes, I may be the loveliest in the land, and I may be the ugliest mean girl. That's true, too. That's what integration is, where we don't favor one over the other. So the story foretells that Snow White, our heroine, she has these marvelous colors of alchemy, red, black, and white. She's in for huge integration, and it is a great adventure. So mirrors have played a significant role in everyday life since ancient times. Everybody wanted one, and now everybody has them. Okay, it's difficult to bear not being able to look in a mirror and check one's appearance. Even if you ever walk by and go like, God, that person looks just like me. Oh, my God, that's my double ganger. And you realize, it's not your double ganger, you moron, that's you. It's like, oh, wow. Pretty hilarious. Or you catch a glimpse, and sometimes it's a lovely glimpse. It's like, wow, love the color of those eyes. And there are eyes. Wow, nice, cool. Or other times you can see yourself frown, or or a sagging jawline, and go like, oh man, gravity, it's a bitch. See, I don't think it's age and death. I think it's gravity, but that's my personal madness. Okay, so here we have this magic, and it's a magical mirror, no less. The bitch comes in with a magical mirror. Like that's not enough. And it seems to be the only thing she does is throughout the whole is look at that mirror and then try to kill Snow White, which is an interesting experience. But she also, on a higher or deeper level, the Dark Mother represents the Great Mother who initiates us into her as her child. She's the one that puts us through the Promethean tasks because you've been chosen to become whole. So in all these stories, the opposites, it's not just black and white as if they're separate. They belong together. And so this mirror, okay, now often we'll look at something and we'll notice maybe a stain on our appearance or our dress or outfit, or a flaw in our makeup, or a flaw in just a facial expression. Okay, it's like, wow, I didn't even see that. Certainly photographs could do that too, which is pretty scary. And the mirror shows us this objective image on one level. But then the take comes when we notice the first gray hair, and when we see some wrinkles where previously our skin was smooth. If the mirror is large enough, it shows us the whole figure, how it has changed, and how it has deviated from the ideal image we have of ourselves. Does it make any sense to smash the mirror when the image that looks back at us is no longer there? It's a good idea for about a second, but then there's 7 years of bad luck, so who needs that one? Okay. So this is the power of she. My cat's name is she who must be obeyed, and she's about to climb on me. And that's good. That's sweet. It must be very cold out. She doesn't climb on me during the day. She's a night hugger. Okay. Now, also mirroring in intimacy. We are mirrors for one another. And this is, mirroring is very hard to take. And sometimes positive mirroring, people can't take it. I mean, when I see the beauty of a soul, and it's just, wow, look, this person has no idea their magnificence. I have to be very careful whether I should tell them or not, because if it's too much, they can't believe it, they can't take it in. They'd rather have, the tragedy mirrored back. So this is a balancing game, okay, or relationship, okay? So the relationship and the intimacy with the mirror image and likewise shows us how we meet ourselves. So how do you respond? I mean, we know how the stepmother responds. She's not going to brook any fools and certainly don't even think about being prettier than her or more, and in a way that's also the attitude of the Great Mother. What? Venus, remember the story of Psyche? She did not cop to that. Psyche was like being honored as beautiful. So that's a little hint right there. So sometimes we just try to avoid the reflection, or we go into a panic. And we have to look at that too. Or how do people see us? And the mirror, it plays an important role in many tales and myths and fairy tales. It can also reveal to us things that can't be or can be of great significance for our personal development. To this extent lies the fascination with the mirror, also a hint of our possible future. Maybe if I reshape my eyebrows, or cut my hair, or make a change. Most people that look in the mirror, except if you're just getting ready to go out for the night, it's like, no, we look at it because we want to know the changes we need to make. Not just in our appearance. We see it in the glint in our eyes and the facial expressions and in it all. It's there. We may not be naming what it is that we're seeing, but believe me, it's there. So to recognize the hint and to liberate it from its, because we can be so neurotic when we're looking into a mirror, that's the task that we need to perform. What is this mirroring hindering at? Now, as I said, people can mirror through their eyes at one another. You can have positive mirroring where, for the most part, people are more whole and more beautiful than they could ever possibly think they are. But they'll focus on that one thing. And if it's not neurotic, if it's like, okay, I'm going to focus on that because that's the thing I really want to change. I want to see that light. Okay, well, then that's good. Now, what's interesting is according to the old tradition, the mirror is not only the objective representation of our appearance that looks back at us from the mirror, but also our true self that speaks to us from the mirror. The mirror, so they say, reveals our double, our other side, our shadow, which we do not like to see. But, hey, it's there. Take the opportunity to dance and change with it, integrate it. And for this reason, some suggest that we carry mirrors on our back so as to see what lies behind us, so as to come to terms with it. And very often in when I'm mentoring, all right, we have to look backwards a little bit. What was going on there? Or if I know a certain astrological aspect is happening, I've got 29 years of and literally thousands of dreams on my computer. I'll go back to that period and see what my dreams were telling me. And there it is. There's a reflection. Now, of course, when I first began this, little did I know the discipline it was going to take, but little did I know the rewards that it was going to reveal. Because your dreams is your biology. It's your history. It's the story of your entire inner world, given every night. Talk about Shahrazad in action. Absolutely, that's what's happening. So when you have that discipline, and little by little it just becomes second nature. Some people meditate, some people write down their dreams, some people do both. Okay? So that's also mirroring. Dreams are like a mirror of what psyche is saying to us. Psyche, remember, is the language of the soul. And psyche is all around us, and we are in psyche, and psyche is in us. Psyche, so there it is. And psyche knows all. Never underestimate what she knows. She knows past, present, and future, above and below. That's how profound and powerful this is. And so when our psyches are changing, everything around us changes. So when we look a little backwards in a therapy or in a mentoring, or when you go into the doctor, they always ask you your history. Started somewhere, looking for some hints. Okay, so we attempt to deal with the aspects of our personality that have remained in the dark, and have had to be repressed. Our ancestors knew that there was more. Wait a second, Mike. Excuse me. Darling. No. She has a habit when she wants attention. She throws things, or she goes and she rattles china or glass, which is the sound she likes, the smashing glass. It's not a mean thing. She's just very musical. Talk about reflection. Are you my reflection, my darling? Okay, so this is what we're looking at. This is what we need to begin to understand. The ancients understood this, and you have to understand that also the mirror was the pearl of great price to have a mirror. Can you imagine when they first saw themselves? I mean, they would see themselves reflected in water, and that. But actually, the making of the mirror had to be extraordinary. Or if you see a child, the first time when they see themselves in the mirror, oh, what a glorious moment. What in heavens is that? Isn't that astounding? I move, I move. I see what's going on. So it can be great fun, and it can also be a great reference point. Okay? So, our ancestors knew more appeared in the mirror than what was eternally or externally visible. You can verify this yourself by attending to a multiple of feelings and hardly perceptible personal impulses that awake in you, sometime calmly, and take a little longer with your image in the mirror. Really speak with it. Or people say, go have a talk with yourself in the mirror. It's really astounding. I do it all the time. Like, what were you thinking? Or, no, this needs to change. Come on, I need your cooperation. I accept you, you accept me, in due course, of course. And, of course, you need to take more than a minute, and you need to repeat this many times. This process has nothing to do with vain self-admiration. It is a way to inquire into and to determine the nature of yourself. And there's little glimpse. So in our fairy tale, okay, the queen does not look just once into the mirror, but again and again. This is the new queen. This is the dark queen. Queen number 2, who's also the great mother. Again and again, she asks the mirror in a particular form of reflection on herself. She seeks only for confirmation that she is the most beautiful, that in every respect she is completely right. Now, people do that all the time. They'll ask us the opinion to mirror them, but if you mirror something that they don't see, then we're being negative. Well, then don't ask me. I mean, it is the way we say something, all right? But people always need mirroring. We all need it. We all have it. We all have the desire. So we try to tell the truth in a commanding and positive way. But, down to earth. So here we've got this wacko with this magic mirror, okay? But as time passes, like 7 years, what else happened to somebody in mythology? Remember Persephone? She was 7, and she was abducted into the underworld. So we know, dang, Snow White, you're in for it, man. And the mirror reveals, And so it tells her more than she wanted to know. And the mirror says, "Here, O Queen, you are most fair, but Snow White is beyond compare." With this begins the dynamic and the dramatic development of the fairy tale. The mirror reveals to the queen something new, which she has henceforth concerned herself. Her beauty is limited. She counts only here in front of the mirror. She's not criticized by the mirror, but rather the mirror puts her into relationship to a greater world. Okay. Looking in the mirror has served to validate the queen, for everything was still as it had been. Remember, the old form doesn't want things to change. Snow White represents the new potentiality of our souls, and there was nothing new to unsettle her. But the day comes. Because they don't talk about the shock and trauma and, that the queen is going through, but this is what starts this all up. And at the age 7, something always happens. It's the first Saturn cycle, and something always happens. So reflect on your age of 7. Reflect in the mirror, in one another. It's not a beauty contest. It's about relationship. If you see some shadow, accept that too. Write it down and work with it with compassion. Okay, there's nothing I can do. Gravity is greater than I. Therefore, how can I expand my values? Perfection is not a value. Perfection very often, particularly in anorexics, is a death wish. So there we have, again, the death queen and the reflection. So there's so much in this archetypal image of the mirror. So go forth and mirror one another in a positive and loving manner, down to earth, with boundaries. I mean, we look and we see Hollywood, when people put all that stuff like, what did you do? You were beautiful. So, my darlings, here we have it. Sign up for V-Day, and next week, the curse of Snow White. She begins her journey to consciousness. Au revoir.